Hi, this is Bill, and this is part 2 of the BilroCAD tutorial on learning Autocad. Taking up from where we were last time, we have a rectangle, we have a circle representing a hole that should be over here, maybe about 20 down across and 20 down. So down here we have the X and Y axes. If we go that way, it's positive X. If we go that way, it's negative X. So we need to go negative Y to bring it down. So to do that, we use the relative way of doing things. In other words, we press a point and we move relative to that. So I'll demonstrate that now. So M for move, hit enter. Select your object by means of a window, or you could just pick it if you want to, and hit enter. That's the amount of you have to do. Is once you've finished collecting your objects, you always have to hit enter. A lot of people miss that. So now I can put my reference point anywhere out here and see it wants to move, and we actually type in at 20, because that's we want to go to the right by 20, comma, minus 20. So we're going along 20 and down 20, and we hit enter. Let's just check that that's been done correctly. See, it's snapping to the middle of that circle and snapping to that corner, and there we are, 2020. When I say snapping, that means that it's locating whatever geometrical point is nearby the cursor, and this is controlled by this little thing down here. We can turn this on or off. Snapping on, it's called O snap. That's turned on, and now this little fella here, we have end point, midpoint, center, quadrant, intersection. That's the other ones. The ticks are the ones that I normally use. So that's always what you call your running snap. And if you turn it off, you can dial up any snap you like by holding down Shift and hitting your right mouse button. I'll demonstrate that now by turning that snap off. So now all I have to do is mirror that about the midpoint of there and there to give our a new circle that's going to be there. So press mirror, select our object, hit enter when we finish selecting our object. Now see, that doesn't want to pick up that middle point there. So if I hold down Shift and pick midpoint, it does. And see, if I was just to leave that like that, it would do it in the wrong place. So I've got two options actually. I could make sure that my thing was going out there nice and horizontal, or I can pick the midpoint of that. At the moment, I'm just going to pick the midpoint of that. So again, Shift, right click, midpoint, and down the bottom it says erase your source objects. Now there's your options, yes and no, and at the moment the default is no. That means if you hit enter, it says you've answered in for no. And there it is, it's down there, that's done that. Okay. Now here we are going to use a different way of mirroring. We're using these things here, and we're going to mirror about just one point only. So we use the mirror command again. Now here's a word about selection with your box. If you pick here and drop down to there, you'll notice that you're picking everything. That's called a crossing window, and you don't want that. So, and if you want to remove that item out of your selection, hold down Shift and just click on it. And just leaves those two. So look down the bottom, mirror selected objects. We've done all our selection. We hit enter, and now we've still got no object snap going. But what if we turned it on? So we turned it on, and see how it locates to the midpoint. So now it's wanting to do its mirroring, but there is a way of making sure that that's vertical. And down here it's called orthogonally, ortho mode. You can hit F8 on the keyboard if you want. So turn that on. See how now it wants to do it correctly. So now, then the other catchy thing is that I can have the cursor any old where out here, and it's still going to do it right. And again, we have the mirror erase source objects, yes and no, and we just hit enter. Okay, so we've drawn our plate. Now we come out into our drawing. This drawing here is think of everything as one-to-one. So this viewport is like a hole that's been cut in paper space. And I'll demonstrate that. There's the hole that's been cut in paper space. There is a hole, it's a world, a look into the world of the model. So there, we're in paper space now, there it is there. But there's the model. The model, we can see into our model that we have done. So how can we make sure that prints out at one-to-one? Do we want it to print out at one-to-one? Maybe we want it to print out, if that was a big thing, we'd want it to print out a damn sight smaller, wouldn't we? But for the moment, we'll do it as one-to-one. These viewports are very flexible. You can move them around, you can resize them, you can scale them, you can do anything with them. So if I go in for move, I can move that viewport up to here. I can click on it, check out its properties by holding down the right mouse button and selecting properties. And at the moment it's actually telling me that it has got a standard scale of yes. And there's another tricky one, display is locked. So if we wanted a different scale, let's say we wanted it to be 1 to 5, say. So we could turn that lockedness off. That doesn't mean to say the whole thing's still not, you can still copy it and everything like that. It means that when you jump into the viewport, you can zoom in and muck around with it. So what we're going to do now, press escape, we can jump into that viewport, and I do it by double click. See how it's now changed all this? This has come up here and got a little model space icon in the corner, all this garbage here. And we can zoom. We could zoom 0.5 XP. And it becomes much, much smaller on the piece of paper that we're trying to draw. In other words, that's ending up as a 1 to 2 scale. And if I double click over here, notice that cursor is a cross on here. Now if I go slowly over here, it changes to an arrow. Now if I double click out here, again, it changes to the cross. So just double click, come out of here, double click again. That's how you get into and out of your viewports. And sometimes you'll come across drawings where they've locked that viewport up. There's our properties thing, and there it's telling us our standard scale is 1 to 2, which is fine. Considering that this is an A1 sheet, you'd probably have lots and lots of little details on this sheet. And we'll draw something bigger on here, and just to show that maybe we can do it. Something that's, say, 20 meters long, how would it show up on here? But in the meantime, we'll carry on with a few dimensions on our, we'll put some dimensions in on our little block, our little foot plate. We'll zoom in, click on there, easy. Now, you've noticed that I've forgotten to put in some crosshairs on the centre line. To my way of thinking, these are unnecessary, but there are certain people in this world, and they say, oh no, it must be, you must have crosshairs on every circle. Well, okay, let's put some crosshairs in. So, we go L for line, put a bit of a line. Now that's not going to go very horizontal, is it? So if we go down here, click, now it's wanting to go horizontal, and that's long enough. And another one, say, about yay big. As they're only roughly right. Now, another way of moving things is to hot point them. You click on the object, click on that, and bing, it goes to where it should do. Now notice that's not really looking like center lines, is it? So let's just make up some layers. Here we go. Layer Properties Manager, which is off screen. Now I'll bring it onto screen. And they've given some default layers in this listing already. This is a template. Normally you only get layer 0. So let's make a layer. We'll call this center line. Okay. And we'll make another layer. Well, they've got a layer here, which that tick means it's the current layer. So suppose we change that to yellow. Any colour yellow. That one there, nice bright yellow. See how it's already changed over here. That's now yellow. So the reason for that is we're going to use that to print out bigger. This centerline one, we're going to make that magenta. There's magenta. And see over here, the line type, at the moment it's continuous, so we want it to be, well, looks like there's standard sort of a thing there, ISO something or other, that'll do. So we go OK on that. So now that's your center line. So we can close this, and then changing those to the centerline layer is easy peasy. You can just highlight them and click in here and go like that. That's easy. You can change that. So now we want to copy that onto there and there and there. So we go CO for copy, select our objects, and click our base point that we're going from, and click, and click, and click, and hit enter when we're finished. So there we are. Now that doesn't look like it's got any dots and dashes in it. Let's go and see if they got any dots and dashes out in paper space. No, it's nothing. This could be the LT scale. LT scale, in other words, that's line type scale. I've just typed that down in the bottom there. Hit enter. See, at the moment it's 1. Let's try 0.2. Let's see if it, now we're getting a little bit of a thing there. Let's try it again, 0.1. And there's some decent sort of line types. You can experiment with all these to get your line types looking good. Now, see your dimension up here. That's all very well. That's ISO. The dimension style is ISO 25. So the style of dimensions is controlling how the dimension looks. Everything about the dimension can be controlled by this format of the style. So to do that, you have to see next lesson.